Discovering purpose. I mean, discovering purpose, like a life of purpose, finding your way in life, how to find passion and a purpose that you feel driven to just keep moving toward a goal, something that you really want. You know, A Course in Miracles helps us really to understand when we look within ourselves and not be afraid to do that, that we can find that you can actually be finding your way in life. Hey everyone, James Nussbaumer, and thank you this morning for joining me. I say this morning at 6 a.m. on my Monday for a Better Life podcast. And it's so early, the sun's not up yet. It's February 5th, 2018. And, I love getting up early in the morning. My normal day, really, I start at I kind of wake up at around 3:34 and, maybe put some coffee on. And lately, I've been doing some juicing, juicers, I've been doing some, carrot juice, and I get a juicer, I'm in the morning rather than caffeine, sometimes that is exhilarating. And, carrots and tomatoes and a zucchini. Oh, that goes great too, which I had this morning. And, I put it on the rocks, so to speak. Like a drink in a fancy glass, and maybe stick a little celery stalk down in there and make it like it's a treat. But, when we do things like that are bettering our health, and, I want to stay, like I was saying, with the carrot juice, squeezing juice from the carrot. We like to say squeezing the orange juice, fresh squeezed orange juice, but I would have to say with the carrot, it's like extracting. But these juicers are great, and that's not what I'm talking about today. So my God, I got to get going on, but bear with me. I'm dealing with a head cold kind of a thing, and it's nothing major. It's just kind of something that's, got me, taking some over-the-counter antihistamines and things like that to, keep my breathing channel going. And, I'm not worried about it. It's not like I have the flu or anything. But, are you like many who want to begin uncovering your purpose but are really overwhelmed about what to do? And that's why I drink my vegetable juice, because it helps me kind of think maybe about what I want to do, because I think it's messaging my body that, hey, I'm pretty cool at 60 years old and I can continue, even though I have a little bit of a cold going on in the upper respiratory right now, but I'm confident that it's no big deal. But what I mean is, if you're want to begin uncovering your purpose, but are overwhelmed with life in general, and you're seeing no prospects for change and living your dreams, and you're just wanting to, you have dreams, but you're just kind of giving up on them. And my gosh, I'm with you. If you feel that way, I know exactly how you feel. Oh, let me take a sip of coffee and relax here. I already had my juice, but I'm having coffee too. But, perhaps maybe you're feeling a true calling that's tugging at you and more, and perhaps maybe you're searching for uncovering your purpose. You feel like deep within your inner realm that there's a purpose. I guess I would like to say that you just don't know how, and maybe you're thinking I just don't know how to have fun anymore, because you're so beat up on the grind of every day, living and working 40 hours a week and that kind of thing, the way the world has programmed us to do. And nothing against that, but somewhere along the line, somebody said you got to work 40 hours a week. I don't know I don't think I ever read that anywhere in ancient writings, ancient scriptures. I don't think I read anything about that, but I know it's about, working hard. But I think what the ancient writings meant was working hard on your passion and your inner bliss, what it is that you really want to do. As I think about that right now, I think back to when I was this young 11, 12-year-old boy playing football. And of course, I've always been a football. And if you read my first book, The Master of Everything, A Story of Mankind in the World of Illusion You Call Life, then you'll remember this story. But if you haven't bought that book, then my gosh, please buy my books. Please support my work. But anyways, I just picture myself. I'm looking at my deep brown eyes as I'm talking to you right now, and looking at the helmet that's on me, and the football helmet that's on me, and the shoulder pads, and at this age bracket I was in, and the red and black is what our colors were. The St. Barbara's Bobcats of Massillon, Ohio. And that's when I first got the urge to get moving at football. I'm like, because I always like, and I got to say, at that time, I read a book by Fran Tarkenton. Remember Fran Tarkenton? Who really, really, at that young age, he wrote a book for young kids that were growing up and wanting to be athletes and are athletes or whatever, and told them that. And he had great lessons in that book for kids. The book is called Better Scramble Than Lose. And the reason it's Better Scramble Than Lose, because anyone that knows Fran Tarkenton knows that he was a scrambling quarterback. And that's a marketing angle that he had too on that. But you know what? People get against marketing, but hey, marketing is what makes people come to find things that they need to make themselves better for a better life. But so when I read that book by Fran Tarkenton, I was just in love with Fran Tarkenton. And at that time, so I became a Minnesota Vikings fan because of Fran Tarkenton. So, I see that Eli Manning is wearing his number at the New York Giants, where Fran Tarkenton first played at, and then went to the Vikings, and then went back. Started at the Vikings, went to New York Giants, and then went back to the Vikings. Well, okay, whatever. Enough of that. But but my point is, and I wanted to say, I just remember running down the sidelines with this number 32 on my jersey. It was a black jersey with red football pants, and the helmet was painted. The helmet was red, and I was running down the sidelines on this counter play. It was down the left sidelines going to our goal, and I can just remember I knew I had clear running. All I had to do was just keep running as fast as I could. There were guys behind me. I could see it in my peripheral vision behind me. And I knew that if I just kept running, they wouldn't catch me, but they were close, and I had to keep puffing it. And I was on that side where I was going past the opposing team's bench. I was right down the sidelines. Darting down the sidelines, number 32. And I could remember the looks on their face, the coach. I can remember just, and I glanced, a little bit as I was running, and the players, and, hoping that somebody would tackle me. But I kept moving and growing and going and going, and got it. And I went across the goal line. And there's a chapter in the book, and I crossed across the goal line in happiness and exhaustion too, both. Exhausted and didn't know how to think about or feel about myself. All I could feel was bliss and joy that I had accomplished something. And so on the other side of the field was our team, and they were raising their hands, and they were clapping, and the one woman I can remember, who was always following our games and was cheering, Jimmy, Jimmy, way to go. And I remember seeing my father standing over there on the sidelines, just proudly looking on and not getting emotional or upset, or raising, being anxious and stuff like, rah, 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 that kind of thing. And I came across the sidelines, and he was behind the team because, we couldn't. But I just remember, and I looked up at him, and he gave me a little thumbs up. And then, on the way home in the car, he talked to me about that and told me how proud he was of me. But you see, we all have moments like that. And more, perhaps, that you too are searching for uncovering your purpose. But uncovering your purpose doesn't necessarily mean that you're playing football or, at that young age, I thought that maybe that was my purpose in life. But, I was thinking that I was driven towards something. So the thing is to keep being driven, I guess, is the point of that long story I told in this podcast. But then again, isn't that, as I sip on coffee, isn't that what a podcast is all about anyway? So what I'm saying is, for many people, fun, bliss, total bliss. For many people, that has become non-existent. And for others, as it has become an addiction. They learn how to grab onto it. But, as with most addictive substances, people build up a tolerance for things. So despite all the fun things that people do, as we get older and we get into adult life, which, can kind of lead us away from what we really want to be doing, people still are not having fun. I guess what I'm trying to say is what is really missing is the sense itself of pure joy. And I don't want to dwell on my little thing about running down the sidelines for a touchdown, but that was just an example to let you know about how in those moments, and everything that I explained to you, how I was feeling such pure joy, pure, godly joy. Why can't we do that in everything that we do in our lives? People find that they no longer feel an authentic joyfulness in living, despite all the fun stuff that they have or do. We try to, it seems that the concrete sets the standards for how and when and where and with what to have fun. But we forget what's really most important within us. Many people have a lot of fun toys, but never use them. Think about that. How many things you got around your house you say you need to get rid of because you really don't use them? But this is the case whether rich or poor, and regardless of the stage of life that, you are in. But for many people, like you try maybe to start uncovering your purpose, the world has taught them how to fit in, and including having, say, the proper toys that the world tells us are fun. Now, this prompted Rayanne and Robbie that messaged me from, they live a little bit outside of Toronto, Ontario. And they wanted to know maybe about, they had mentioned something about, how do you get over keeping up with the Joneses? And so, and by the way, I love the messages I'm getting from people all the time. Hey, come on, message me about anything you want me to talk about at next week's podcast, because I just, love this, because I write about this kind of stuff and it's exhilarating me. And I'm just like, at 60 years old, I'm just like, man, I'm just feeling so strong about writing about this kind of stuff. I'm tired of living my life. I mean, I gave up on living my life as far as, were things that you don't want to do. Hey, I learned my lesson the hard way. For those of you that know my story, if you don't know my story, read my books. But really, that's one of the purposes of this podcast, is to get you to read my book so you can know where I've come from. But we stop making choices of our own. We stop exercising our own power of choice and allow the worldly pleasures of the ego-based mind to give us joy. And I talk a lot about that because my studies from the spiritual, metaphysical principles of A Course in Miracles have taught me so much. The Course in Miracles have taught me so much about the ego-based mind. And that's what we humans are. We are ego-based. So as long as we can accept that and learn to deal with it, and but put our spirit in charge, like when I was running down the sidelines, my spirit was in charge. If I was afraid from the ego, which is about fear and doubt, I might have stopped along the way, darting down the sidelines, going for that touchdown, and maybe have looked over my shoulder, which is a no-no for a halfback. When you're darting for the goal, you never look over your shoulder, because that little glance, that chin over your shoulder pad, slows you down just an instant to get someone behind you to tackle you. So, if the ego in me was in charge during that run, I would have looked over my shoulder, but I didn't. I kept running. I love it. It's a good memory. And I have a team picture, by the way, of that. In fact, by the way, I have to say real quick that at St. Barbara's in Massillon, Ohio, I think it was 1968. The team picture doesn't say that, but it was in the Massillon Independent, the Evening Independent. And we actually that year we won the first year in the team's history, the history of the team, that we ever won the championship in the Catholic Parochial Division, which was a nice thing for kids. And we had cheerleaders, and the nuns would come to the games, the priests come to the games, and it was just a great thing. And it was just a beautiful thing. But so my point is to get back to that, and I only mention dates and times so you can think about maybe where you were at that time during what I'm talking about. And if you weren't even thought of then, as I sip on more coffee, maybe you were still around in the air, so to speak, in the part of wholeness. You were still there. Oh, that's another subject. We need to stop that. I need to move forward here. But again, I guess the only way to see through the charade of the ego trap, first of all, is begin viewing how we give and how we receive. But let's look at giving and receiving as different aspects of the same one thought. Think about that. When you give, you receive. But let's say giving and receiving are the same thoughts, but different aspects within that thought. That's the one-mindedness of what A Course in Miracles tries to teach us, that I just love. Because this, again, is why I urge you to learn how to do mindfulness meditation, too. Now, I have to say, when I say mindfulness meditation, A Course in Miracles, for those of you that aren't familiar with The Course in Miracles, does not teach meditation. No. A Course in Miracles does not teach meditation. But if you're into meditation, or if you're into traditional prayer, it gives you one-mindedness, types of thought that are not ego-based, to prayer and meditate over. So especially the giving to and receiving from yourself, and then you will begin uncovering your purpose in life. Let me let me give you a quote from one of the principles of Course in Miracles that is just so profound that I just love. The Course in Miracles teaches that this step, the smallest ever taken, is still the greatest accomplishment of all in God's plan. In other words, it's about contemplating and understanding that when you place limits on anything, all you're doing is imposing these limits on your life and everything that you do. It's kind of like when I was running down the sidelines, if I would have turned my chin over my right shoulder to see if anybody was behind me to tackle me, boom, sure enough, they would, because they were right behind me. But I didn't, and I kept moving forward because I didn't turn my chin towards the man, the little boy behind me. If I would have turned my chin, I would have been tackled. But I hope you can see the parallel in what I'm trying to say by using that story as an example. So, remember that spiritual freedom is really gained inside of you through who we all are as connected with each other. And the Course in Miracles terms that as the sonship. You can say it also the Son of God, but when the Course in Miracles says the sonship, and I'm not here to give you a lesson or about the Course in Miracles, but the Son of God in traditional terms, we could say that's traditional terms, but we could say the child of God. We're all connected within, but we all are ego-based. So while we're in this world, we need to know how to, live with each one of those. But the truth of the matter is that you do realize, we all do, that the body is a loss and will eventually turn to dust. Well, that's what the ego teaches us. Does the body really turn to dust? I don't know. Does the body even really exist? Or are we just dreaming of a body and projecting a body? Oh, that's getting a little deep, and I don't want to go there too, but I have that in a future podcast coming up. But, this reflective state of thought that you can get into, a mindset, so to speak, is how the world's most influential people, like to act like a success and think like a success, because they know how to go within themselves and see that they are more than just a body, but they are still connected with everyone, and they are not separate from his or her own identity along with others. And this, when they think that way, frees them from the prison cell of the body that the body wants them to be imprisoned in. Ooh, pretty deep, isn't it? Well, let me just say that if we are all separate and we are all lost, if we are all one, nothing is lost. And being one-minded is the idea of the Son of God, which is the child of God. In those days, they used the masculine overtone, the Son of God, and and Jesus was here to show us that. And let me repeat that: if we are separate, we are lost. If we are all one, nothing is lost. And being one-minded is the idea of the sonship, or we could say the whole child of God. Every sacrifice that you make is reinforcing your belief that you are separate and not at one with your Creator. And this is why we've been having trouble uncovering our life purpose or discovering purpose. The ego's purpose of demanding sacrifices to make the world recede, but replaced by only what the body's eyes can see. In other words, we want to think that whatever the body's eyes can see, that's what the world is. But And that's the concrete world. And it's becoming our concrete way of thinking, and it has since time began. So if we can understand that, the only way to understanding spiritual freedom and your way to success is to witness the truth, the real truth, instead of illusion. Well, let me say that we are not separate, but each of us has our role to play as part of the whole sonship. And when I say the sonship, you could, relate that to like the starship, but a sonship. That's the reason we use that term, is because, we're all in this together. Without your special function, whether you're running for touchdowns or not, the world has no meaning for you. You have to be discovering purpose, don't you? If you don't, then, but let me say that your special function can become your treasure house, if you would like, as rich and limitless as heaven itself, so to speak. Therefore, let's not be afraid of or embarrassed by your abstract thoughts about what it is you really want. And those things about what it is you really want, those abstract thoughts, and about who you really are deep within yourself, rather than what the world tells you that you should be, those abstract thoughts that you have. When I say abstract, you know what I mean. That's in a previous podcast, and I can't dwell on that here. But abstract just means it's not concrete. Abstract is your spirit, is the best I can explain. By the way, in 2 podcasts before this, I kind of explained that. But it just means that, don't be afraid of the abstract thoughts, because, wholeness, that is the wholeness that you are feeling about yourself with all of creation, which means including our Creator. In other words, if you're feeling whole with all of creation and at one with all of creation, it's not just with all, it's also with your Creator. We are in the one mind of creation. In my books, I talk about the Holy Spirit, and that's the function. And we use traditional terms. But the Holy Spirit's function is to release us from the imprisonment that we have made. I guess what I want to say in this podcast is I've been rambling on quite a bit about a lot of stuff, but I'm trying to lead to a point here, and I think maybe this might, put the hammer on the nail, is that now it is your time for uncovering your purpose, for discovering purpose, and open the door. Look within and open the door, or uncover what it is that you are hiding within yourself. You don't have to share this with anyone. And then accept the light of your inner divine essence that shines through. And that's what I call, and what A Course in Miracles also calls, the Holy Spirit. So before I close here, as I go, to make it easier for you to enter the realm of, let's say, spiritual freedom, simply ask yourself this one question. Can my own function, my own purpose in life, can my own function truly be a task apart and separate from the Holy Spirit, who is my inner guide? Well, here's a thought-provoking article that I also want to refer you to about overcoming challenges in life, and it's at my blog at jamesnussbaumer.com, and all you need to do is punch in Uncovering Purpose, Living Life Fullest. But, as I close here, and I got to go, because I've got many articles at my blog, and for those of you that know me know that, but I want to invite you to sign up for my Everyday Miracles newsletter if you are already not uh, signed up. Please sign up at my website. There's a link there everywhere. Please, please, I should have said this in the beginning, as I've always been told, but I forgot. Please, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you're at my website right now listening to this, in the header above and the footer below are YouTube icons. You can click on that and join me. But follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Facebook too. But I have to say that, I just love interaction with everyone. And if you're going to be at the Transformation Conference coming up, I hope that you will, because if you haven't gotten an invitation already, you will be getting one if you're on my email list. Then I hope that when I see you, that you will come up to me and approach me and say, hey, I liked what you said this time or that time or whatever, because that's interaction that helps us to extend our inner value around the world. And when we share happiness and bliss with one another, isn't that really what life is all about? So I wish the best for you. And like I always like to say in closing, before I go on here now, I'm going to go get ready to go out for this morning for a little breakfast. And I think a good breakfast I got planned with someone that invited me there. And then we're going to do a few things. And then I'm going to come back, and I've got like 3 blog articles I got to write today. So, hey, I got to go now. I've run over time. And all I can say is I want you to think about your natural beauty and how the world is just waiting for you to extend that. And when you extend your inner self, your real beauty about you, that is when you will be discovering purpose. God bless. James Nussbaumer, signing off.